Welcome back to Sage Court Farm. My name is Craig, and please subscribe and smash that notification bell. Today is hoof trimming day. Yes, the very thing that every goat breeder loves to do is trim hooves. Yes, that was a little bit of sarcasm. Sometimes the best laid out plans just don't come together. As you will see, I make fun of myself. Okay, I just want to show you some of the tools that I use. First off, some of the important stuff is you definitely want to have a nice, good pair of leather gloves to protect your hands, and also safety glasses. And I'll get into why safety glasses are important. One of the things to be just preventative is to have what's called blood stop powder. It's in the case that you actually do happen to cut too deep on a goat's hoof and they do bleed, so you'll want this powder that you basically sprinkle out and rub into the cut, and it helps to prevent the bleeding, but also it's an antiseptic powder as well. Then the other thing is you want a good pair of trimming shears to cut through those hooves. And another device I use is a long neck grinder, which has, an abrasive metal pad here at the end. And what's great for that is to actually smooth the bottom of the hooves out. Because sometimes if you cut the bottom of the hoof and it's not smooth and there's a lot of rough areas, that actually provides a good environment for bacteria to grow and turn into foot rot. That way, if you use a grinder and it allows you to smooth the bottom of the hoof, that way, like I said, it prevents any bacteria from getting into any little crevices. Now, granted, some hooves, depending on the way the hoof is shaped, because just like everything else, not every hoof is the same. So sometimes, using the grinder is not ideal, and I actually have to use the shears instead, or the snipping shears. So like I said, the important part is eye protection when you're using the grinder. So if you think about it, when you are grinding the hoof, there are pieces of hoof that are coming off with the grinding. So you just want to make sure none of that is getting into your eyes at the time. And then the other thing I use is a milk stand. And we have a volunteer coming right up on the stand. So I have a ramp here that I use to help bring the goats up onto. That way I don't, kill my back. Because some of these goats can be quite heavy. Don't be eating my glasses. See there? That just proves goats do like to eat anything, right? This little goat wanted to start eating my safety glasses. But back to the stand. It's actually a milk stand. You bring the goat up and you put their head into this area, and then you take the chain and you loop the chain around their head and you put it through. It's kind of hard doing this one-handed. You bring it through here and then you wrap it, pull it tight, and then wrap it over top of the bridge of their nose. So you'll get to see that in action here in a little bit. But it's a milk stand, but I use it for trimming hooves. I know a lot of people sometimes will purchase rotating tables. That's where you actually have a chute that the animal comes down in. You have a head gate that the animal's head goes in and closes, and then the turntable actually has padded sides that you close in on the sides of the animal, and then you can rotate the animal, actually flip them on their side, and in some cases you can turn the goat completely upside down to work on their hooves. That type of that type of equipment obviously is more expensive. And then plus with those turntables, it's kind of hard, I think, just watching some folks use them. I think it's a harder solution whenever you're doing it by yourself, because you need someone to really help get the animals through, and then you need to make sure that the gate shuts properly, or the head gate shuts properly. And in this case, I leave the horns on my goats, because with the horns coming in into the head gate, sometimes depending on the size of the animal, the horns aren't as big, so you have to adjust the head gate, and sometimes the goats won't fit through to the head gates as she's trying to eat my gloves. And so I just think, just watching other people use those rotating tables and the head gates, there's a lot of work to do if you're just one person. And I just find this situation, or using this milk stand, just a lot easier in my eyes. Okay, so I got this one doe up in here, and as you can see, the chain wraps around the back of their neck and slides up here and clips onto this peg and goes over her front, or over her bridge of her nose, and then clips onto this metal peg over here. So it kind of keeps her secure. And then the sides are open, so that allows me to gain access to the side of the animal. And you can see here, she has some growth here that needs trimmed off. So what I'll do initially here, show you, is I will actually trim this growth off with the shears. That way it's pretty easy. Clean that up, and you can see how it's kind of folded over there a little bit as well. And I do notice that during the dry season, the dryness of the summer, the hooves will actually harden up, and so it's harder to actually trim them, where if there's a little bit of moisture in the ground, or moisture as far as rain and so forth, the hooves will soften up a little bit, and it'll make it a little bit easier to trim. So there you go. I cleaned that one up to get the rough stuff off. And as like I said, you need good gloves, as I'm wearing gloves that have pretty much worn out and got holes in. But so now I'm going to show you how the grinder works. Put that over there. So the grinder has variable speeds right here, so it'll probably be a little loud, but like I said, okay, so as you can see here, see how the grinders actually flatten this out, has gotten rid of the rough spots, and just kind of makes it a little nicer. There's a little bit of work here I need to clean up on. You just want to make sure the hoof is even, so when she's standing, and you don't necessarily always want to cut a bunch off, because it'll be a drastic change for them. So you kind of want to shape and manipulate the hoof each time that you cut it, to get it to where it needs to be. And ideally, as a goat producer, you want to look for goats that have good feet. And if you don't, if you have a particular goat that doesn't have good hooves, or it's troublesome, or maybe they acquire foot rot, or they get what's called foot rot, you'll actually want to probably call them from your herd, and just keep the goats that have better feet, to where you don't have to trim them as much, or maybe have to spend as much time, because I have some goats where this one I had to take a little, a fair amount off there to trim her down, but I have other ones where I hardly have to trim anything off their hooves. And so what comes into play there is the genetics of the goat, and that's what goat producers are, the ultimate goal they're looking for, is to find those perfect animals that have perfect feet, they put on good weight, they produce good kids. Also with Kinkos, you're looking for, does that have good mothering instincts. There's just many aspects that you look for in a goat, and that's kind of the fun of raising goats, is you're trying to mix different animals from different bloodlines and trying to come up with that perfect goat. So it's kind of like the mad science experiment in a way. But like I said, that's one of the most enjoyable things, is just trying to see, hey, you mix this particular goat, this doe with this buck, and to see what you get, see what comes out, what characteristics you get.